It's also like what we owe. Sometimes you can look at somebody and say, okay, they make $1 million, but if they're spending 1.2 million on their lifestyle, they're not saving anything.
No, they're more broke than you.
Exactly. You can have somebody that's making $100,000 and they're saving 50 of it, and they're in a better off situation and have better financial skills.
For sure, like no stress, we're going to figure something out. But when you're trying to fix a problem after, man, it's an impact. So that's why I really appreciate your work. That's why I wanted you on. With many studies I seen, it's often infidelity, just like you said, or financial problems. What misconceptions do couple have about money in their relationship, and how can they reframe their mindset for way healthier financial communication between one another to make it not taboo, like in a way?
There was a study done in New York City where they went around and they were asking people on the streets of New York City, when's the last time you had sex with somebody? And strangers were telling them what the answers were. Like, okay, this is the last time, this is the last time. They asked those same people how much money they made, and they walked away. They wouldn't answer. So people are more comfortable talking about their sex life than what their income is and how much money they have. And that goes to show you, just like societally, we don't talk about it, right? And it's like very taboo. We show, right? And people will say like, oh, you have the big house, you have the fancy car, you have the nice pocket.
Couples like don't communicate. There's a guy that just asked people, couples that pass, how much do you have in your bank account? And he just puts online when the two answer. And it's shocking when the guy hears the girls every time, because the guy is normally paying for everything, and he should. And out of nowhere, he's like 1,004, and it's her turn. She's like 39,000, and he's like, "What?" She's like, yeah, my dad gave me this there and there. And he's like, and I'm paying for everything. And the face of these relationships that are so shocked that sometimes they're pissed and leave on camera. And that's how much people are not talking and having these conversations for the future. You don't even know who is the real breadwinner in this relationship. When someone reaches out to mindful financial partners, what should they expect in terms of both the process and the kind of transformation they'll experience by the time you have worked with them?
I think that I always say that I'm like kind of like I give people financial empowerment, right? A lot of times they come and they're just like, hey, I think I know what I have. I'm not really sure. And I really like to kind of go through everything. And sometimes people are like, what, this is like a lot. Like, why do you need to know all this? And I'm like, you're getting financially naked with me, right? Like, that's just how it is. And I'm going to know the ins and outs of it. And the more I know, the better advice I can give you. It's kind of like at a doctor. If you're just like, oh, okay, I have a headache. Like, how am I going to fix it? Without going through, like that really in depth. And again, it's not just like, I have some clients that are like, here, I'm just going to give you my statements. And I'm like, these are just numbers, right? Talk to me about these statements, right? Like, where did this money come from? What is it earmarked for? What does it mean to you? Who do you want to share it with? Like, those conversations are really important.
Welcome back on a Rumbling Facts podcast, your number one destination to challenge the status quo, dissect the system, and think outside the box for real, unfiltered conversations in every single episode, no matter how it rumbles your perspective. This is where our guests' uncomfortable truths collides with our reality to fast track our learning in life. This is where critical thinking is promoted, and where our guests and Rumbling Facts tribe alike get pushed to step out of their comfort zone and challenge what they think they know. I'm your host, Sam, aka DjRetsam, on all music platforms. Been 21 years I've been putting my thoughts on paper, and just started releasing in January 2024. Make sure you go check that out. I'm a truth seeker to the core, a music artist and a podcaster, and the founder of a nonprofit called Making Others Read. I take unwanted books, people, and give them back to the communities. I have donated over 108,000 books in the past 3 years, turning somebody's trash into knowledge for others, because if you can help others in life there, might as well fucking do it. Today, we're joined by an incredible guest who blends financial expertise with a deep sense of mindfulness and empathy. Melissa Murphy Pavone is the founder of Mindful Financial Partners. I really appreciated Melissa because she has carved out a unique space in the financial world where personal well-being and financial strategies intersect. People with a distinguished career spanning high-profile firms like UBS and Oppenheimer. Melissa didn't just stop at mastering the financial markets. She shifted her focus to creating a practice that puts the client's emotional and psychological needs first. She has this ability to blend transparency, mindfulness, and deep compassion into the financial consulting. Her work isn't about just the numbers, people, like we would think financial. It's about understanding the human being behind those numbers, and helping people navigating some of the life's most challenging moments with clarity and peace. She offers not just a financial advice, but a holistic, empowering approach that is rooted in trust and understanding. Whether guiding clients through collaborative, I got trouble saying that word, divorce, or helping them plan for their future, Melissa is a true warrior. So, how are you doing, Melissa? It's an honor to have you.
Thanks so much for having me, Sam. Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here today. I'm doing great. Excited to be on your show.
With research I did, I noticed, and I find it very beautiful, that your why in life is really rooted from your mother. Yeah,
Yeah,
can you talk to us a bit about this and how that shaped your approach for the future?
absolutely. My why is my mom. When I was younger, my mom got divorced, and she made a lot of decisions with her heart and not her head. And when she was going through her divorce, she went straight to an attorney, which a lot of people do. And she got legal advice, but she didn't really understand the numbers behind it. And so I've made it my mission to really educate and empower everyone, not just women, but really everyone, to know their numbers, and to, when they're in times of financial transition, whether that's, divorce or new job or retirement or motherhood, whatever it is that you're in those transition times, and that's when things are super stressful, you have somebody to count on to be your financial ally.
Because I realize a lot of women are faced with that emotional moment. Men too there, but it's just women are so more emotional that I noticed, like, for example, my neighbor is 74 years old, and in the divorce, she could have had, like, example, half of the house, or even keep the house if she wanted. But back then, at that moment, she just wants that her kids have a roof, no matter if she's in that house or not, and she just wants this to end, this relationship. So she just left, and like, at least my kids, like, that for 100% sure they got a roof. But like, her talking about this now, well, man, that affects her still today, though, because she's like, man, I could have left her that house while I leave this place there. And that's why it's so important to have somebody that's like there for you to the highest degree, not just your numbers in life. Mindfulness isn't the typical word that normally people associate with financial planning. What was the idea behind this? Because for sure, I love it there. And how did you incorporate this mindfulness in your financial strategy for the future of the business?
Yeah, I worked for a lot of big firms in the past, and they were very much focused on the balance sheet. To them, you were just how much money you had, with them, how much money they managed, what the revenue was. And they weren't really concerned, or they didn't really care about who the person was. And so I really dove into it's not the balance sheet, but really the human behind it. And money means different things to different people. And money is super emotional. And I think a lot of the breakdown is the lack of communication around money. So to really understand your own relationship with money is super important. And then to be able to communicate that, to a significant other, to your family members, to be able to have that healthy relationship.
Yeah,
So
that like it becomes not taboo to talk about financial.
yeah, and I see it a lot, especially like on the divorce side. Unfortunately, a lot of people come that, the number one reason for divorce is usually fidelity. The number two is financial infidelity, right? And that lack of financial communication really impacts relationships, and they don't know how to go over it because we don't know how to talk about money. And a lot of times we kind of just, brush it under the rug, and it starts to snowball until like it then explodes and becomes, like a fight. And it doesn't
Yeah,
have to be.
like it becomes too big to deal, so you just separate there.
Yeah. Instead of like breaking it down early on. And I'm such a big proponent of financial communication and just being able to know what your relationship is and then being able to communicate that with somebody else. And if you think about it, they don't really teach us this like in school, like even going back, like you have to think about like what your first memory is of money, like what does money mean to you? And it's different. What money means to you is different than what money means to me. And then think about couples getting together. They both have their own money stories, right? And their money scripts. And to be able to communicate that to one another and be able to move forward with that is really hard. And I'm a big proponent of like financial date nights and being able to communicate with one another about where they are, where they want to go, where they've been.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's not only like let's put a joint account together. Like, it's really talking about like how much you want, like in 5 years. What's the plan? Did you want to do a vacation? Did you want to build on something here? Totally understand that. When I went on your website, I saw that you have a strong emphasis on understanding the past to create a better future. How can seeing the past really help? And can you give us like an example of for example, without saying the client, but like a history that you saw something in the past that really changed something for the future?
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of one of the differentiating factors with me is that I really dive into people's past. A lot of financial advisors as a whole, they're really focused on retirement, right? It's just like the future. We have to save for the future. And I have a different belief system. I think that it's really a balancing act of learning from our past and peeling back those layers of the onion, right? To know like what our memories were. Did we have an allowance? Did we know how much money our parents made? What does money mean to us? And we absolutely positively have to invest for the future and save for the future, but really be mindful and make sure that we're living in the present because life is really short. And I'm sure you have heard about all of the people, right, that like save, and then they go to retire, and then a week later something happens to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those are the stories that make me really choose to align where I spend my time, because we can make more money, we can save more money, but our time is really our most valuable asset.
Absolutely.
And so making sure that all of our spending, and not just spending of money, but spending of time, is really aligned with our core values is really important. And people don't put a lot of emphasis on that.
That is so true. For example, my grandfather, why he didn't talk about his financial problem, because he retired. He was like 67 years old, and he had moved like I'm telling you, like a minute away from my mom's house. So he was like, "Damn, we're gonna settle here forever," and without him telling us, because a man's often not gonna say the problems to not look weak in the relationship, and he told my mom out of nowhere, like, when it was way too late, all his retirement he put it in the house, and not in renovation. No, it's literally the payment of just everything was too much for what he was getting. So he was draining like 700 to 1,000 something a month, not saying shit to everybody, trying to keep the horses, trying to keep And at the end, when we learned it, well, man, we were like, wow, we need to move you right now, though, because you're going to choke to death. And all that is only because he didn't have no direction of how you got to be open and transparent. Like if he would have been transparent with my mom, like the first 2 months, man, we could have saved that for sure. Like no stress, we're going to figure something out. But when you're trying to fix a problem after, man, it's an impact. So that's why I really appreciate your work. That's why I wanted you on. With many studies I seen, it's often infidelity, just like you said, or financial problems. And what misconceptions do couple have about money in their relationship, and how can they reframe their mindset for way healthier financial communication between one another to make it not taboo, like in a way?
Yeah, I think that, we have to just break the generational gap of not talking about it. There was a study done in New York City where they went around and they were asking people on the streets of New York City, when's the last time you had sex with somebody? And strangers were telling them what the answers were. Like, okay, this is the last time, this is the last time. They asked those same people how much money they made, and they walked away. They wouldn't answer. So people are more comfortable talking about their sex life than
Wow.
what their income is and how much money they have. And that goes to show you, just like societally, we don't talk about it, right? And it's like very taboo. We show, right? And people will say, like, oh, you have the big house, you have the fancy car, you have the nice pocketbook. Like they think you have money. And when people say that, I'm always like, yeah, you see the stuff, but you don't see the price tag that came along with it, right? Is there a
Or the
really high
maintenance
mortgage?
as
Yeah.
well.
Where's the mortgage payment? Where's the lease payment? Where's the credit card statement that goes along with it? So it's not just the things that we have, it's also like what we owe. You sometimes you can look at somebody and say, okay, they make $1 million, but if they're spending 1.2 million on their lifestyle, they're not saving
No,
anything.
they're more broke than you.
Exactly. You can have somebody that's making $100,000 and they're saving 50 of it, and they're in a better off situation and have better financial skills. So I always say it's really important to know what your numbers are, like what your assets are, is what you own, your liabilities are what you owe, your income, what you earn, your expenses, what you spend, and your credit score. Like you need to know those numbers in order to have a good relationship with your money.
Hmm. And there's another trend I saw on TikTok that fits perfectly with what you were saying, that a lot of couples like don't communicate. There's a guy that just asked people, couples that pass, how much do you have in your bank account? And he just puts online when the two answer. And it's shocking when the guy hears the girls every time, because the guy is normally paying for everything, and he should. And out of nowhere, he's like 1,004, and it's her turn. She's like 39,000, and he's like, "What?" She's like, yeah, my dad gave me this there and there, and he's like, and I'm paying for everything. And the face of these relationships that are so shocked that sometimes they're pissed and leave on camera, and that's how much people are not talking and having these conversations for the future. You don't even know who is the real breadwinner in this relationship. So for uncomfortable truths of life, what's one hard truth about success that no one claps for, but it's absolutely necessary to get where you are right now?
I think in like today's society, like we often see the results, right? We see the car, we see the fancy vacations, we see the expensive dinners, but nobody is illustrating the work that it takes to get there, right? Like if you're working and you're missing out on family holidays, or if you're missing putting your kids to bed, or if you're waking up at 3 a.m, like there's a big misconception of what we kind of show the world. And I think that there's like a disconnect there. And with the younger generation, for sure, they only see the results and not necessarily the work and effort and time and really grit that you have to put in order to get those results. So I think that that's really important to have that communication, especially with young people, to know that it's not just like, okay, here you are, here's like a fancy car, a fancy house, or any of the things that people want. You have to look at how long it takes to get there, the time and effort, expertise and education, and like really the effort that it takes to get to that level.
Yeah, I'm used to saying the phrase to a lot of people when they're like, "Oh my God, he's so lucky he's in Miami right now." No, hard work, people. Oh, he's so lucky he has a house and I'm in an apartment. No, it's work. That's it. It's all, and I bring it back to people like get back on earth. This guy ain't lucky. He's paying a studio of $25,000 a month to work. So imagine, it's all work. But a lot of people like just see the facade there. What's an aspect of being a financial advisor work that you believe is misrepresented in medias or movies?
I think, I don't want to say if it's misrepresented, but I think maybe as a whole, it's all about the money and the numbers. And to me, it's not. It's really about relationships and your relationship with money and your relationship with your financial advisor. Because oftentimes people know what they should do, right? Like when the market gets crazy and things go down, you shouldn't sell, right? Like you should buy because things are on sale.
Yeah.
But you have that knee-jerk reaction and that fear, right? So it's like that relationship that you just need somebody sometimes to hold your hand. And we always say it's like the only business that when things go on sale, people don't want to buy them. Or like you want to sell them when things go down. And if you think about it from a different perspective, and it's hard, right? Because your investments have a daily snapshot or a daily report card of the value of it. And like with your house or property, real estate, you don't get a report card every day, right? You know what you bought it for, you kind of know what it's worth, but not exactly.
Yeah.
But if the value of your house went down, you wouldn't be like, I'm selling, I'm out, right? Like, so you have to like think about that logically, but when you have that fear, all logic goes out the window. So you need to be able to have that like, hey, I'm acting like illogical, I need some help, talk me off the ledge, and have that person to be able to kind of like be your voice of reason and be like, nope, this feels different, but it's the same. It goes up, it goes down. We're going to stay the course. We don't need this money for now. And, we're okay.
Yeah, because a lot of people that are emotional become spontaneous, and that it can create something real bad later there. What's something a society celebrates, but deep down you believe it's maybe completely backwards?
I think when people get married, there's a big emphasis on the wedding.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's spend 100 G's right here.
And it's, the focus is on, okay, the florist, the bachelorette party, the bridal shower, what we're wearing, and all these things that really after the 5 hours don't make a difference and no one thinks about them ever again. And I wish that people put a little bit more effort into actually the relationship and the financial communication, because I feel like the breakdown happens really early on because they're so excited about the ring, the wedding, the honeymoon,
the magic.
And they're not, and they're not talking about like, hey, are we gonna have joint accounts or separate accounts? Or hey, who's responsible for these student loans? Or hey, am I gonna take a break from work and raise the children? And will we be able to survive on one salary? And what does that look like for our retirement moving forward? Nobody's asking these questions, right? They're just talking about what color the tux is and where we're going on the after party. So I wish that there would be a little bit more emphasis on the financial communication before people get married.
Me for sure. If I get married, I tell the girl like, we ain't spending 100,000 here. We're gonna spend like 5,000, and our vacation maybe 2,000, and that's it. That's it. The rest is gonna go into investment for a future house, like something future, like because that moment fades and gone quite fast, and especially materialistic. That feeling inside don't last long. After you got that new Ferrari, you want that new Lambo that's coming out. If you're a billionaire, it'll never stop. So you can't get long-term satisfaction or long-term like great impact with objects and materialistic shit, for sure. What's an uncomfortable truth about human nature that your career has shown you? I think you talked about a bit that people are way more emotional and not have a compass with their money.
Yeah, I think that people really have not peeled back the layers of their own onion to talk about it. And I think that's like a hard truth to face, right? Like if we made mistakes in the past, that we don't remake them again, and not to have that shame, but really to learn from those, quote unquote mistakes. And that's part of who you are. But if you peel back those layers of the onion, then you can really learn from that and change the future and correct it going forward.
Absolutely. That is so right. You did great on that, on those. As someone who believes in lifelong learning and staying ahead of the curve, like I do, you stay ahead of this incredible, like evolving financial landscape that like never stops. Do you have an example of how staying ahead of that landscape, especially when it comes to adapting to the market, that changed something drastically?
I think it's always great to continue to learn. I'm a big proponent, and I always talk about, like continuing education while it's necessary being in finance. But I think really personally, it's necessary to just be an avid reader and an avid learner, because it just makes you a better human on top of being a better financial advisor. As a CFP and a CDFA, I have to take all of these classes, and it's great because I'm constantly with other professionals who want to keep learning,
Refining your work. Okay.
And also it's very collaborative, that people want to
Nice.
share how they're doing things, so that you look at it from a different perspective, because my way might not be,
Yeah.
the right way, or maybe I can learn something from someone else's processes or one of their case studies, so that I can help a future client. Maybe I didn't come across this yet, but maybe I will in my future. And so I think that that's really important, to constantly have that kind of open mind to learn, because if you're very closed off,
Yeah.
um, it's just not good, right? Like there's no room for growth there. So in
Yeah.
order to have that like growth and that vulnerability, you have to be open to learning new things. And honestly, with everything going on in the world and tax laws changing and estate planning laws changing, you have to, you have to be on the cutting edge to know the new rules and the new limits for everything, so you can provide the best service for your clients.
For sure. When someone reaches out to mindful financial partners, what should they expect in terms of both the process and the kind of transformation they'll experience by the time you have worked with them?
I think that I always say that I'm like kind of like a financial, I give people financial empowerment, right? A lot of times they come and they're just like, hey, I think I know what I have. I'm not really sure. And I really like to kind of go through everything. And sometimes people are like, what? This is like a lot. Like, why do you need to know all this? And I'm like, you're getting financially naked with me, right? Like, that's just how it is. And I'm going to know the ins and outs of it. And the more I know, the better advice I can give you. It's kind of like at a doctor. If you're just like, oh, okay, I have a headache. Like, how am I going to fix it? Without going through, like that really in depth. And again, it's not just like, I have some clients that are like, here, I'm just going to give you my statements. And I'm like, these are just numbers, right? Talk to me about these statements, right? Like, where did this money come from? What is it earmarked for? What does it mean to you? Who do you want to share it with? Like, those conversations are really important. And so it kind of gives you that pause, because our lives are busy, right? Nobody's sitting down just being like, hey, I'm
No.
gonna put time 1 hour to think about my financial future. Like, nobody's doing that. Like,
No.
I get it. But if you have time on my calendar and I'm there and we're looking at your statements and we're having a conversation, it gives you that time to just pause and really kind of be honest with yourself, right? And I'm kind of facilitating these questions, but you're learning a lot about yourself and what you own and why you own it. And I think that's really important, that you have your own financial literacy and clarity, so that you make the best decisions for you and your family.
And I think talking like that, human to somebody, well, at a certain point, it breaks down the barriers of what he's really what he knows maybe is important for you to know out of nowhere that he probably would have mentioned because he's too embarrassed or he thinks is unrelative. But then he's like, oh shit, oh yeah, by the way, I fucked up last year. So
Yeah.
that's always great.
And it's very like, I say you have to be a little vulnerable, but it's a completely judgment-free zone, right? Like, I'm here for you now where you're at. There's no point in shaming yourself for the past. Like, we're here to work together. We got to unpack the past. We got to save for the future, but we're here right now together to become aligned.
And if you lie and not say the truth, the only person you're hurting, my friend, is yourself. How the hell can that financial person like help you when you're not being honest with the debts you have and problems you have and gambling that you have? It's like going to a lawyer and telling all a lie of a scene. He's gonna go in there and get eaten up by the other one because he knows the facts and knows the real numbers behind everything. Something I really appreciate about your work, you advocate for collaborative divorce,
Yeah.
which is so overlooked compared to being like two enemies on both sides of the track, you're red and blue. Can you walk us through the benefits of this process for anybody that never heard about this and compared to the traditional methods?
Yeah, absolutely. I am such a huge fan of collaborative divorce. I think most people back in the day, the game plan was like hire the biggest, baddest shark lawyer in town, right? And they're going to charge you an astronomical rate per hour, and they're going to bill you in 6-minute increments, and we're going to put our boxing gloves on and we're going to fight. And that it doesn't have to be the case anymore, right? Litigation really should be your last resort. A lot of people know about mediation, and
Yeah.
mediation can be a regular person becoming a mediator, or it can be an attorney who does mediation and an attorney mediator. And it's a neutral third party that helps between spouses to divide up the assets and come together with a divorce plan. And then the difference between mediation and collaborative is a structured team approach. So I like to call it mediation plus or mediation on steroids. It's when mediation, you want to stay outside of court, right? Both mediation and collaborative divorce are amicable divorce processes where you don't go to court, and you want to do this amicably and with respect. But collaborative divorce is a team approach, which gives everyone a little bit more hand-holding. So each spouse gets their own collaboratively trained attorney. Then there's a financial neutral, such as myself, as certified divorce financial analyst. And then there's a mental health facilitator. And they make sure that everybody is respectful and kind of facilitates the whole process. So both the mental health professional and the financial person are neutral. And then each spouse gets their own collaboratively trained an attorney. And so while they each have their own attorney and they each have their own goals, all four professionals are collaboratively trained, and the goal is to get them divorced as peacefully and as quickly and in the most cost-effective manner. So it's really great when there's children involved, because we spend a lot of time focusing on the parenting plan that will work best for this individual family. Certain times there's special needs children involved where the normal custody agreement just won't work. Or say there's parents that work overnight shifts or crazy schedules with nights. So the normal schedules won't just work for them. If we were just going to go that normal, okay, I'm going to court, I'm going litigation, it's just not beneficial for this family. If there's addiction issues, it's very helpful because we can focus on whoever has the addiction to still get help, but still divorce in an amicable situation that is supporting everybody involved. And it is a myth that if you add more people, you add more money. No divorce is inexpensive. It's just not the way it is.
You should have chose the right person at the beginning. That's it.
But collaboratively, even though there's 4 professionals involved, we often save time and money because everybody stays in their lane and you have control over the process. So the beauty of it is that we can have meetings when it's convenient for the family, right? And we can have sessions and we can tailor it, because the minute you go to a judge who has never met you or your family is now making decisions for you when they want. and you're at their mercy, and you're going to have to take time off of work, and you're going to have to, sit in the courtroom and wait till it's your turn. Whereas this collaborative team will work around you and your family schedule, and you really feel supported.
For sure, keeping it out of court and like being just amicable. Like I'd rather hear a person like I ask them, "Oh, when you see your kids, oh, whenever I want. We get along, and I can see them." That is just beautiful. Instead of being like, oh, "I see them each 2 weekends." I'm like, man, it's like, and they're fixed weekends. You can't just treat them, and you got to talk to a lawyer or. I'm like, wow, there's so much shit that goes into play just because you didn't leave this relationship smoothly, and that is so important. So for thinking outside the box situation, name 2 things people should try at least once in their life.
As it pertains to finance, or just
no,
life
anything? Yeah, life in general.
One, I'll say sushi, because I love sushi. So you should always try sushi. And 2, I think you really need to spend some time with yourself. And whether that's like quiet time meditating. I'm a big fan of meditation and just getting grounded and centered. And sometimes it only takes like 10 minutes of just breathing and sitting. And oftentimes we just don't do that.
Yeah, and that changes the game for the day.
Yeah, it really does. I can totally tell my energy is off if I don't meditate. And it has that ripple effect, right? If I'm a little like off and a little, like anxious, my kids are then anxious, and then that ripples to their day. And so I really try to make sure I get my 10 minutes of meditation in the morning, because it definitely impacts the whole family.
What's a harmless lie society tells people that you think does some serious long-term damage?
I think the lie of all you need is like the biggest, baddest attorney in town is not the case. And I really love working in the divorce space, because people are going through a really shitty time, quite honestly, and they don't always feel supported, right? They're doubting the person that they chose to spend the rest of their life with. And now they're trusting these people, and it's hard. And so to support them through that journey, to finding themselves and making financial decisions that are really going to impact their future, it's very important to me to be there. And I love working with other professionals who are also trained in the amicable divorce space and want people to divorce with respect and that team approach, even if it's not a fully collaborative team, knowing that I'm like, hey, this is a little over my pay grade. I'm going to bring somebody else in that's really going to specialize in this. And there shouldn't be egos about it, right? We're all working for the client. We need to support the client the best of their ability. And I always say the first call should be a divorce coach or a mental health professional, because you need to have that person be there for you emotionally, because there's no direct roadmap from point A to divorce. Everybody's journey looks different, right? And so you need to have a person there for you. And then when you're actually ready to say, okay, I'm going to do this, because it's not, you don't just wake up one day and say, okay, I'm going to get divorced, right? Or I want a divorce.
Yeah.
Sometimes people say like, I want a divorce, but I don't think I can afford it, right? And so when people often ask like, oh, should they call you before an attorney? And I say, before they call me, they should call a divorce coach or a mental health professional. And then when they're ready, then they should call me. And then together we can help guide which path is best for you and match you up with the best mediator or attorney that will suit you. And
you're almost a psychologue at the same time. Obviously, maybe with not that background, but you're still caring so much about the person, asking the right questions to really you're here to support him during that way, or her during that divorce. And I find that fucking beautiful. That's absolutely one of the main reasons I wanted you on. I find that incredible. In your line of work, what's the most important skill a person should have, or a trait?
I think asking the right questions and actually listening. I think that oftentimes people like to talk a lot. And, all professionals are experts in their field. But sometimes you just have to ask a question and then pause and really get them to open up to you, to find out really what the real priorities are, right? A lot of times people come to me and they're like, I want the house. I don't care. I want to keep the house. I don't want to move. And
because they're just the big problem for them at that second is just the move. And that's
right.
it. So.
And it's a couple of things. And then you know, we sit there for a little bit and I say, okay, is it that you don't want to move because you physically can't handle, right? Getting the dumpster, packing the stuff, finding a new place, like that's a lot. Is it that you've had every holiday here and your children were born here and you don't want to let go of that because that's part of this divorce? You know, or is it that you really love this community and your children going to this school and the neighbors, and you can't see living without these people in your children's everyday lives?
Yeah.
And so
completely different reasons.
Yeah. And so like for all of those reasons, you can want the house, but really trying to get them to open up of what it is and what some possibilities are for, you know, them and some alternatives, because I have to manage my clients' expectations that it's not all going to be roses, right? I need to know what your priorities are, what your spouse's priorities are, and somehow know that we're going to end up somewhere in the middle there.
And that breaks it down, because literally the person at that moment, he doesn't even know why he still wants a house. So you literally open him up so much that he realizes that, okay, that's the reason. Maybe it's not worth it that much because it's just the memories inside, for example, but the community is not that great, man. But if everything would fit, like you said, like the third, well, that's when maybe that house is way more important for your family than anything else there. Can you share an instance where your intuition or gut feeling led you to make a particular decision?
I'll tell you about one case that I came in too late, and I wish I was brought in earlier. And they went through the divorce, and I was brought in for kind of the post-divorce transition assistance. So the wife in this case comes to me and says, okay, I'm now divorced. I need some help. My, ex kind of was the CFO of our family, dealt with everything, but now I'm divorced. Can you help me? I need a person. Sure. So tell me what happened in the divorce, what you got. Well, I got the house. And I'm like, okay, what about support? And she's like, no, I couldn't afford to buy him out of the house. So I foregone my support. And I was like, okay, like red flag number one. And I was like, okay, well, she's like, I have child support, but I'm like, your son's graduating next year, so that's going to change. And she's like, yeah. I said, do you work? And she's like, no, I've never worked. I don't really have any skills or want to go back to work. And I was like, okay. I'm like, how are we going to pay for the maintenance on this house? It's paid off, but the taxes are really high. You have to it's a huge house. You have to maintain this now by yourself. And she's like, oh, I have this account here. And she shows me an account. And I'm like, this is an IRA. She's like, okay. And I'm like, how old are you? She's like, in my 40s. And I'm like, you can't touch this until you're 59 and a half. And she kind of just looked at me and she's like, what happens if I touch it? And I was like, well, you'll get penalized for it. There's a penalty if you take it out before 59 and a half. She's like, okay. And I said, and you have to pay tax on it because nobody paid tax on this money before. And her jaw just kind of dropped, and nobody explained that to her. And she also had a very low cost basis in the house. So she ended up not being able to afford the house. She had to go back to work. She had to sell the house. She had to pay tax on the house. She ended up going into that IRA and making penalties. And it was one of those cases where it was like, I wish somebody brought me in sooner, because I could have rewrote this whole story.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I would have advocated for you and along the way educated you to know what you were signing and what it meant for you before you got to this case. And so it's just like those stories where I want to work together with attorneys and mediators and mental health professionals to really support people and educate them to give them the best divorce possible.
I got two last questions there. Okay. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so well, one last one for the critical thinking part. If you're given $10 million to fix one issue in this world, what's the first move and what's the long term with this?
I think that it would be financial literacy. I would invest it in financial literacy and financial communication to really break down, and it might be at schools, it might be at home, but to really kind of have that I really have that passion of, if we talk about it and we break that stigma, similar to like the mental health stigma, right? Like a long time ago, nobody could talk about mental health, and now it's very, common knowledge to say, okay, see a therapist, I need help. We're getting over that. We need to do that with financial literacy and financial communication, and I think if we did that, people wouldn't be as shamed for it, and we would decrease the number of divorces, and we would just overall increase everybody's financial literacy, and they would make better choices for themselves.
Only if economics in school would teach that financial side.
Right.
Like they didn't teach us how to pay bills and shit. And when we become like 18, 20, you get an apartment, you're like, oh shit, I got this, that, and taxes here. Wow. And yet you're paying for a school tax and you don't even have kids. You're like, what the hell? You don't even understand. But because they don't teach you that. And isn't that fucked up? Because we're all going to go through that. And it's like having a child. Nobody teaches you shit. And then boom, it happens.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that just teaching people would save a lot of problems and money and health for a lot of people. Many financial experts focus strictly on the numbers and strategy, but you take such a more holistic approach by combining emotional intelligence with the financial advice. In a world where instant gratification often fucking reigns, how do you encourage your clients to think long term about their financial health and emotional well-being compared to others?
Yeah, I think it's really like that balancing act I talk about, that we like unpack the past, we plan for the future, but we have to stay mindful for today. And I think that time is really our biggest asset. And just being able to say like, what do we want our future to look like, but also what do we want our journey to look like to get there? Because it's not just the destination, right? It's like
Goddamn
how
right.
we get there
Yeah.
and who we get there with. And I think that's important to think about it in that aspect.
That is so true. I want to thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate you coming on. I really love the way you build that company, because it really, man, you talking about it, we see that fire lit in you, and that is beautiful because we see that it's so genuine. So thank you again for coming on. And where can everybody find you and find that company?
Yeah, awesome. My company's name is Mindful Financial Partners. My website is just www.mindfulfinancialpartners.com. I offer complimentary consultations. So you can just book a half hour on my calendar, get to know you and see if it's a good fit. If it's not, I'm happy to recommend another financial advisor or coach that could be a good fit. And yeah, if everyone just would be a little bit more mindful and increase their financial literacy.
I saw on your website that you do like a first couples a 30-minute free at the beginning. Do you still do that, or you don't?
Yeah, so the company, I have another company called Money Matters in Marriage, and that's really to help those couples that we were talking about to be able to go through. There's kind of a discovery quiz that they can take, and that company is called Money Matters in Marriage LLC.com, and couples can take a discovery quiz to see almost kind of like how compatible they are and if they're on that same page, kind of like what you said, like how much money is in my bank account, how much money is in your bank account,
Yeah.
just really to open the lines of communication about money and finances and their future. And so you can, the quizzes, I believe, 199 maybe to take the quiz, and then you get a side-by-side report, and then you get a complimentary consultation with the CFP to kind of go over it, and then an action plan, because sometimes when you're first getting married or first in a relationship, you're not necessarily ready to invest, right? You might have a lot of money in your retirement accounts or you're saving to buy a house, but you need some guidance, and there's not a lot of tools for those younger demographics. It's very much, hey, here's an app,
Yeah.
And or wait until you have $250,000 and then you can get like a real financial advisor at a big firm. And I think there's a disconnect there, right? Because there's a big population that wants more than an app, right? That wants a human, that wants somebody to bounce ideas off of. And so I created that in order to like help that younger demographic who are beginning to build their lives together, to open those lines of communication, to be able to be ready for their marriage.
Thank you for that. You're awesome, Melissa. So thank you, everybody, and have a great weekend.